Welcome to the Red Gauge Podcast. We are your hosts. I'm Kyle. This is Josh. Please like, comment, and subscribe. It helps out the show a ton. Today, we have the powerful Logan Chapman. He's put up a 23.55 raw total and a 23.97 in wraps. Wildly impressive numbers. We're excited to have him on, not only because I think you're number 6 all-time for super heavyweights,
Yes,
but
sir.
because you also are a Shelton boy, like we are.
Yeah. Yes.
So, yeah, hometown. Yeah. So, how did you get into sport?
I was just a chubby kid that wanted to look better for girls, to be honest with you.
Nice.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it turned out to be something a little bit different. I had a couple buddies in the weight room kind of convinced me to try to do the powerlifting club, and that turned into, okay, finally I'll do it. And I never looked back since. Never looked back since.
Did you feel like you were skilled at it right away? So you got
absolutely
like two
not.
kind of guys. Yeah, that's I was incredibly weak, and Kyle was pretty strong.
Yeah, I was pretty strong. I did like my first time deadlifting, I did 425, and my first squat was like 225 for 50 or something.
Yeah.
Well, that's more than when I deadlifted. So
I think my first bench press was 117. We got the ones out to beat a buddy. Yeah. 117.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think I was like 300 pounds. I couldn't even squat my body weight, and that's even to a box. Couldn't even do it. And then I benched around 185 pounds, and I deadlifted like 415.
Yeah. Those are good numbers though. Still, 185 is a great starting bench. 415 is a great starting deadlift. It's funny the lifts that you have a hard time with when you first start. Like, I couldn't curl anything. Like 20 pounds on the cable machine with both hands was like a really hard time. I was not having a good time when I first started lifting.
Yeah.
And I always thought that was the weirdest thing. Like, why am I so good at deadlift and so bad at, lateral raises or curls?
No, yeah, I get that completely. Deadlift came natural to me, though. I think I'm just used to picking crap up all the time. I picked up furniture a lot, that kind of stuff during the kid. Helped my mom move around a lot, so I think it just came natural.
That stuff helps.
Yeah.
So you were saying senior year, right before your senior year, you moved to Arkansas? Is that where you went right away?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes.
And then, so after, were you able to continue powerlifting once you got there? And like, what was those next steps? Like, did you find a gym? Like,
I think I started in, unfortunately here, they wouldn't allow me to use the weight room unless I was on the football team. So I just ended up joining the football team to get access to the gym for powerlifting purposes. Yeah, they kind of tricked me though, because I found out from a student that after school you could go to the gym anyway, as long as you're a student there, which is whatever. I was 275 pounds and 6 foot, so they wanted me on the team.
Right. Yeah.
And so it just started there. I ended up getting really bad injured in my, I think it was my right knee. I ended up tearing a partial tear of my meniscus and overstretching my PCL and ACL, and did a stint on recovery. I ended up unfortunately dropping out and getting my GED because of life purposes. I just had to get a job and figure out life, and then started at a commercial gym, just lifting as heavy as I could get to, and doing some stupid crap basically in the gym.
Well, like, knowing the end of the story, knowing where you're gonna go, like, that's a very awesome, like, up until like the end of senior year, a little bit after senior year, like, nothing was really going great, right?
No, yeah,
and you
not at all.
hadn't really even seen success in the weight room.
Yeah, no,
and
not
so,
even close.
If like, just how many people don't ever see their potential because
they
stop too soon. Right?
Absolutely,
like,
yeah.
Could easily
they give up
there.
Yeah, they just give up, And I think it's because it's hard. And after my first powerlifting meet in Shelton High School, I just remember the crowd of people screaming at me, and then all the other kids from other high schools cheering me on, and the camaraderie. I've never experienced that in my entire life in any other sport besides this strength sport. I find that incredible. And I think I washed my hands. I was covered in blood because I tore all my calluses off deadlifting something. And I just looked in the mirror and I said, I just want to be the best I can be at this. I want to
Yeah.
be the best in the world. And I just never stopped believing in that.
It is a pretty singular. I mean, I guess a lot of individual sports are like that. Like I always really enjoyed going to track and field meets,
Yeah,
and powerlifting meets. Like you get to spend the day hanging out with friends and snacking, and everybody's
that's
happy for everybody
exactly.
else to do well. Like it's one of the
Absolutely.
best environments for
Hmm.
sure. Did that change at
Absolutely.
all when you made it to like high level meets? Like I know you've been to some big meets. Was it a different
Yes.
vibe at all?
Totally different vibe. Now if you go from just your local standard meets, it's really fun. Everybody knows you. It's
Hmm.
like, what's up, dude? Blah, fist bumps. Everyone's getting along. And then you go to like the US Open, for example. That's where I went to in California. And it was just I was like a deer in headlights. Everybody that I've ever followed ever was there, and everybody I looked up to was there. So it's very kind of overwhelming, I think, mentally and emotionally rather than physically, if that
Yeah,
makes any sense. I got really drained pretty quickly just on the
Right.
sheer fact of running around and just meeting everybody instead of focusing on what I should have been doing.
yeah.
But I
Did
was
that
young.
did that get better the second time you went to a big meet?
Yeah, a little bit. I
Yeah.
kind of composed myself a little bit more, and I also too. I enjoyed the local meets a little bit more. We have a few big meets here in Arkansas that showcase probably some of the strongest individuals in the world in each individual weight class, actually. So you'd be surprised down here what we got going on. It's pretty impressive.
I don't know that I would be surprised. I feel like there's probably three things to do. My brain is like Arkansas is probably like farming and lifting. Like that's
Uh,
probably,
football, football,
Football.
and football, right?
football.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Everybody
Love you
loves
guys some
football,
football.
and then every kind of soda is Coke. So there you go.
Yeah.
That's Arkansas.
I
Yeah.
want a Coke. What kind?
Yeah, no, they just get you a Coke.
Yeah. So, okay, so we got to rewind a little bit. What was the dumbest shit you did when you started lifting, on your own?
Ooh,
These are my
boy.
favorites because I got lots of dumb shit that I did.
So just not understanding programming,
Yeah.
actual programming, never taking a deload week. I just, lifting heavy all the time.
Uh-huh.
Um, until I got like, I would say, oh shit, probably like around 650 on squat and bench is where I kind of figured out more things to, on the programming scheme, like taking rest days, being more linear about my programming and, focusing on certain movements that help the actual bench or the squat or the deadlift instead of just going there and lifting as heavy as I can all the time.
Right. Yeah, I know understanding programming was a big thing for me. I'm super smug and always think I know what's best. I'm impossible to coach, and so the weight room when you were there, Undersayer would have been gone already, but Undersayer had the filing cabinets. They might have still been in the weight room, but
Yeah, they were. Yeah.
yeah, and almost everything was in those things, right? The books and
Yeah.
studies and
Everything.
workouts and
Yes.
everything, right?
All of it.
And so I thought that because I read it, I had a real good understanding of what programming was. And then
Yeah.
it turned out
Yeah.
that most of those programs were, like people who had been training for 10 or 20 years and were,
Yes.
taking all the special sports supplements and all that kind of
No.
stuff. And so,
Yeah. Yeah.
in a year, I was just falling apart and was like, I don't understand. I did such a good job.
Yeah.
I did all of the things.
Yes. You just got to be careful what you're doing. Like, I would never be training like I am now or at my peak than I was at like 20 or 19 or 18. I
Uh-huh.
wouldn't be doing the same things at all. I'd be
Yeah.
totally different.
Yeah, we were just having this conversation. Like I'm at the point now where I can do like 4 or 5 exercises in a session and I'm toast. I got
Yeah.
nothing left in the tank, right?
Absolutely.
And I remember when I started, I could do 12 or 15 exercises.
No, for sure. Yeah.
in a
Volume was
session.
nothing. I could do
Yeah,
it all
yeah.
day long,
Yeah.
And then now you're programming more than 3 reps on squat. I'm going to look at you crazy. I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
I'm just not. My knees and hips are going to be screaming for a week, kind of a thing.
Uh-huh.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's actually funny. We've talked about Kyle's had hip issues, especially. It's like, man, could we just train your legs differently
Yeah. Just
and never really do the squat, but then like leading up to a meet, just do some like ones or maybe even a 2 to get. The
yeah,
movement
I
pattern
always
down.
like doubles and triples were my sweet spot. I could really tell if I'm gaining anything out of a program or not gaining anything out of a program in my doubles and triples.
Yeah. Yeah,
I
and,
just
and
respond better to it.
I mean, I dislocated my hip when I was a kid, so squats have
Ooh,
always
yeah.
been a hard thing for me to
Hmm.
do, to get into and fall in love with. And every time I've ever set a squat PR, it's been on the back of not doing any squats for like 6 or 9 months.
That's yeah. That's me in
Like,
deadlift. I could stop
yeah,
deadlifting for a year, but I can come back and deadlift 800 still. I don't
yeah,
understand it.
yeah.
It's one of those things.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I had a pretty significant knee injury maybe like 4 years ago or something, and was really down about it for like a long time. It took a long time to get to where I could work out again, like halfway decent. And then I had like 3 months of rehab, and then one day I was like, I'm gonna do some front squats to a box just to see what it feels like a 12 or
Hmm.
10 inch box. And I ended up doing like 550 for a double, and I was like, that's crazy. That's way more
Yeah,
weight than I ever touched in my life. And
yeah, that's crazy.
like like
Right, like the strength was always there, but the injury just
yeah,
held you back so much
yeah.
Yep.
that it was better to just fully heal them.
Yeah, it was better just
That's
doing nothing.
that's kind of similar to like what I experienced during the US Open. Like in the middle of my prep, about 8 weeks out, I had a pretty bad back injury because I was like in the gym one day and there was a deadlift, a thing going on, like a party or something. And I was like, yeah,
Yeah,
let me go over there and try to deadlift 800 again. And I, messed up my back pretty bad. I couldn't even deadlift 500 pounds. And for the whole 8 weeks, I was, this is not good. Like if I can't deadlift 700 pounds, I'm not even going because we had to drive 30 hours to get to California. We didn't fly because it was too expensive.
yeah.
So we had to drive there. It was crazy.
Well, and
So
anybody who's never had a serious back injury, like if you have a serious back injury and you're looking at going to be in the car for more than about 20 minutes,
dude,
right? Like so, like a
yeah.
30-hour car ride with a major back
My-
injury, you're like, no, no.
Yeah.
Lay
My
in the back
back,
seat.
my hips, my knees were shot. And I got there like 4 days before the meet. So I
What
tried to
kind of
recover.
what kind of car? You're not a slight
Toyota
man.
Corolla.
Yeah, like-
Yeah. Yeah. That was fun. Just sitting like
Yeah.
this the entire time. I was like, oh my God. Yeah. It was great.
some
I
good.
had fun though. It was still fun. It was an experience that I'll never forget.
Yeah. How much did you end up deadlifting?
750. I'll
Nice.
take it.
Okay.
I'll take it. I did
Yeah.
squat the heaviest squat of the day too. I walked out 936, and that was my first ever walkout meet. And on top of that, it was the first time I ever did 2.5 meter reps instead of 3 meter reps. I was used to
Okay.
3 meters, so I cut half a meter off. So
Yeah.
still good. Still end up doing it good.
Yeah, so for anybody who's listening and is new to the world of powerlifting, there's a couple things there. We're trying to get better about explaining things to people who are new to
Yeah,
training.
yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
So-
we get in the weeds
Yeah.
of shit that we like. And it's
Yeah.
like, I don't know if anybody knows what the hell we're talking about.
So the walkout, so there's some federations that lift with what's called a mono, and
Mhm.
monos have hooks that move. And so as a lifter, you can get, your feet placed and get yourself
Yes.
braced and take that weight out, and the hooks just get out of the way, and then you can go to
Mhm.
work. And then some meets you are in a standard power rack, and you have to unrack the bar, take a
Yes.
step or two back, and then do your lift. And the bigger and bigger you squat, obviously,
Yeah.
the more and more energy it takes to walk it out.
Absolutely.
It's not that terrible if you're used to it. Like if you
Yes.
if you train it
Yeah.
and you do some heavy carries and stuff like
More
that.
variables.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
Just step
Yes.
in and
See, some
Yeah.
people are better at walking out than they are in a monolift, but I think that's more or less like, are you in an environment that you can use a monolift every day?
that's
Because
what
if
I
you can
think
use
it
a
would be
monolift
is-
every day, that's
Yes.
use
Yeah.
it.
I think it just has to do with the fact that without taking those steps, that's
Mhm.
that little bit of the brain not active, not understanding it's
Uh-huh.
about to be go time. Whereas like if I'm
Exactly.
used to taking my like big step, half step,
Yeah.
that's when
Mhm.
my brain is like, oh baby, it's about to happen. Whereas if you just made me go, it might not be prep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Something that like if you're watching this and you're like, I'm gonna be one of the strongest people ever, at some point you'll start to notice that the bars get a little whippy. And
Mhm.
I
Yeah,
always
they do.
actually
Yeah. Yeah.
And I always really liked that. So I liked the walkout because I liked the
Mhm.
feel of the bar like pushing on me and knowing like, okay,
Okay.
that it's never gonna feel worse than that bounce.
No,
like
yeah, you're right. You're right.
when your heel hits and the bar and it comes down, it's like, oh, it's like
Yeah.
that's the most it's gonna be. Right. So like
Yeah.
if I can take that, I'm gonna be okay. And so for me, I always liked the walkout.
I hated that. That was awful on my spine. So I said
Well, you
no to
also
that.
squatted much more, like
Yeah, yeah. A little bit. Yeah,
Yeah.
just a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know that I've ever made a bar whip. So
Never. Well,
my
like,
shit's just out there
the
straight as hell, dude.
coolest part too is like that's a lot of people. The difference in the plates too make a big difference in big squats too.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So if you're used to pound plates, that thing's going to be bouncing all over your back, regardless if you're walking out or using a mono. But if you
Yeah.
got kilos, a lot more condensed, a lot more into yourself. I like squatting on kilos better than anything because
Yeah.
that tightness, I like that.
Yeah, and they also make bars. There's power bars that flex less, and then there's regular lifting bars which flex more, and then there's whippy
Yes.
bars like Oli bars or deadlift bars which whip a lot.
Oh yeah, no.
You ever feel
We
like
got
risking
squat
an
bars.
injury?
We usually like use a 55 pound is the one that I
Mhm.
compete on the most is a 55 pound squat bar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then wraps are like maybe half protective, half assisted. They're just bands of elastic that we wear around our knees. So 2.5 meter ones are obviously less length than 3 meter ones, so you get less support, less oomph out of them.
Especially on
Less
big-
revolutions on the knee. I mean, you could like talk about all day like how many revolutions can correlate to how many pounds on the bar, But I usually tell people, regardless of the length of the wrap itself, depending on who's wrapping you and how good they are, you can get anywhere from like 80 to 100, 125 pounds out of wraps. That's usually the give or take I give on wraps.
Yeah, and there's a huge amount of variability there, right? Because you're a 900-pound squatter, and so and you've been doing wraps a long time. Like if I show up and I just crank those wraps on, and I'm doing my beautiful figure eights and everything, you're not going to complain about it, right? But if you're a 300-pound squatter and I come and crank some wraps on you, you might not ever you might have to take a day or two off afterwards.
Yeah,
so,
I got a couple people at the gym that are younger, and they're screaming and hollering when I'm wrapping them on, And I might I do a scale, so I got like 10's going to be the hardest wrap of your life, and then I don't go past a 5. A 5 is just neutral to me, I usually try to give them a 5, and they're screaming and hollering. I'm like, you guys have no idea. No idea.
Just laying.
No
when
idea.
they go to squat, they can't even get down all the way.
No, that's when you know the wrap's good. If you have to put more weight to get you down in the hole, so that means they're working good for you.
Yeah, so there's a lot of federations in powerlifting, like some where you don't wear any equipment, some where you wear wraps, some where you wear squat suits and bench shirts and stuff, and and they have an impact for sure.
Oh no, yeah, for sure. I mean, I've never got in high school in Shelton, I did do my squat in single ply, and I did do my biggest squat and my biggest deadlift in single ply. I think it was like 500 and something in like it looked like Walmart wraps and a really tight singlet.
They were probably the old Inzer ones, the red
probably,
Inzer ones.
Yeah. They're like red and black. I think they're probably the old Inzer
They're still
ones.
floating around. We can probably find them somewhere.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Definitely have replaced them since then.
Oh, they're gone?
Well, dang. That's nostalgia
that's
right there.
20-year-old Inzer wraps.
Yeah.
Hey, I like those Inzer wraps. I like the ones, I used to have an old pair of black and yellow gripper ones for my wrist. Those were like some of the best wrist wraps I ever had, for a long time.
Yeah. All right, so you went to Arkansas, started training on your own in a commercial gym. When I started training again, I was training at a commercial gym late at night, and after a little while, I'd show up and people would like leave the power rack, and I'd be like, "You guys don't have to leave," and they're like, "No, you're serious about it," and I'd be like, "We're all here at 10:30 at night, like you were just as serious about it as I am."
Oh, absolutely.
How was your commercial gym lifting experience?
So I got a job at a donut shop making donuts. So what I ended up having to do is I usually go into the gym pretty early compared to most people because I'd have to be up at 2 a.m. and then I get there around like maybe noonish.
Yeah.
So I never had to like fight anybody for the rack or get in the way or anything. But more or less, I got kicked out of the commercial gym actually because apparently I was intimidating trainers there. I don't know what that was about. And they tried to like tell me I wasn't re-racking my weights, even though I was probably the only dude in there re-racking weights. And then I moved to another it's a local owned gym here, but it still was commercial. But someone ended up stealing something out of my bag, and I tried to get them to watch the cameras, and they said no. And I was like, okay, cool, cancel my membership.
Yeah.
And then I went to the best gym that I've ever been into in my entire life is Arkansas Muscle here in Jonesboro, Arkansas.
Yeah.
Uh, Travis Knight is the owner. He has made a facility, a dream facility for powerlifters for sure.
Yeah.
We got kilos, specialty bars, 2 monolifts, comp benches, the whole nine. We have it there.
Yeah. All the equipment in the world, all the specialty stuff and everything.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, absolutely.
So when you got to that gym, I don't know if you will remember, like what were your lifts? Like what were your lifts ish? And when you went in there, were you already one of the strong people, or was this where you in your head you were like, I'm one of the really strong people? When you get to this gym, and it's like, oh baby, this is something.
Well,
else
there
right
was
here.
definitely like some strong people in there, don't get me wrong. But when it came to squatting and deadlifting, I was for sure the strongest kid in there doing that kind of stuff. My bench always sucked. I could barely bench 3 plates by then, and I weighed around 330 pounds. I was trying. I was really trying, but bench just never clicked like the other two did for me.
Yeah.
The other two just came up quick, 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 quick. But after a couple years, I got to like 365. Then we moved to a different facility. And when we moved to the different facility, that's where things started really going in the positive direction for almost every single lift. It was kind of crazy, actually. I went from like the mid sixes on squat and deadlift and around 365 on bench to I think it was like 17 something. And then I went to like 1930
Yeah. Big
or
jump.
1950, big jump all of a sudden.
Uh-huh.
So I went from like a 650 squat to an 800-pound squat. I went to like 650 deadlift to a 750-pound deadlift, and I went from a 365 bench to a 455 bench
I
in a
bet that
matter
felt good.
of, oh yeah, no, that felt fantastic. And it took me a matter of like a year and a half to get to that point, basically. And
Yeah.
then after that, it was just big jumps after that, crazy
Well, that
jumps.
right there, just what you said, like probably is the best message you can give any young lifter. So you didn't probably even realize what you said, but you were like, it happened really fast. Like once we moved facilities, it happened really fast.
Hmm.
And then you said it was only a year and a half,
Yeah,
which is totally like
yeah,
this fast.
Yeah.
yeah.
That is
Oh,
incredibly fast for those games.
yes.
But like for all those people that are out there on the internet trying to find like the shortcuts.
The 12-week
Yeah.
transformation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like,
That doesn't happen.
That'll happen.
That-
That'll if you're really weak, it'll happen once, maybe twice,
Yeah.
right in the beginning, and it's
Yeah.
never happening again. There's no shortcuts, you know.
yeah,
Like,
I mean, at that point in time, I've already been lifting for about 5 years. So,
Yeah.
or like 4 to 5 years. So I contribute that to everybody I talk to, especially any of my teammates or any of my people that I coach myself. They want, it's always like, I want it now. And that's just not how that works, right?
Yeah.
I could help you not make the mistakes that I did to get you there quicker than I did.
Yeah.
But the thing is, it's still going to take years to get to
Right.
this point. So it's
Yeah.
never quick.
When I started training again, they had just reset all the USAPL records. They changed all the weight classes. And
Mhm.
so the record for my weight class was like 1850 or something. And I was like,
Yeah.
if you put together all my best lifts, I'm pretty close to that. Like if
Uh-huh.
I got in shape again, maybe I could take a run at that.
Yeah.
And I saw this interview with Chris Duffin where he was like, it's going to take 10 years. Like if you want to be, if you want to be a monster, like even if you're super talented, even if you got good coaching, it's going to take you
Yeah.
10 years. And I was
Absolutely.
like, what does this guy know? And then,
He's right.
But-
That's the problem.
100%, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But then
everybody's
also
strong.
every like 6 months that record would move up about another 50 pounds. And so like,
Yeah.
like I started getting in shape and I'm like, oh shit, now I really got to push, and then like
Yeah.
pretty soon I'm like, this might not be for me anymore,
No. That's
Yeah,
how it
when-
felt too. Like, when I think when I hit what was it, 2136, something like that. I started really, I had a group of guys, because I always tell this to people too. It takes a village to get to where you need to go. And without like my team that I had at the time, my wife and everybody else that was around me, like I I couldn't have been the powerlifter that y'all see on the open powerlifting now. I wouldn't be anywhere like that because they dedicated multiple hours to me to help me stay in shape, keep me accountable, looking at my depth on squat, making sure all the, all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed kind of thing. So,
Yeah.
I think it's
Yeah.
very important to have a group that you can trust to make you successful if you want to actually get successful in the sport.
Yeah. Yeah, it's something that's come up again and again on the show is that like you got to go somewhere where there's people who can do it, or build it
Absolutely.
around you or whatever, but you got to find some kind of way to be around people who want to do that kind of thing.
No. Yeah. You have to have people that are, I wouldn't say it has to even be like-minded as you, like even they don't have to want to be the best, but if they like you and want to be around you, that's like super cool to have that around you to help wrap you, help take the wraps and roll them up and help you get from, okay, you're not hitting death, man. You gotta sink it a little bit more. You're about an inch and a half high. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. You go back and you adjust kind of a thing. You got people that are loading and unloading for
loading,
me,
Yeah, loading and
Yeah.
unloading. And
Yeah, even if you just got a buddy who'll load half the weight, like
Exactly.
they do one side, you do one side, saves a lot of gas.
Absolutely. Like, my first 1,000-pound squat, it was during COVID, and I was supposed to do it in the animal cage. I was going to go against Dan Bell. That was actually, there's going to be a thing going on where we went head to head, and I ended up squatting at the gym, and I did 1,005. And I can without the people that I had, literally 15 or 16 people all spotting, loading, wrapping me, helping me. I mean, I couldn't have done that without them. I wouldn't have walked in that gym and loaded up 1,005 and did it right by myself without anybody there. I couldn't have done that. So,
I mean, just loading 1,005, 45 at a time, 55 pounds at a time.
Yeah.
That is not a small amount of energy. That does take away it. You know what I mean? That's a shit ton of plates.
Yeah. 10 plates and 35s, right?
We had hundreds. Man. We had hundreds. Yeah, we did have hundreds.
So. That makes it worse.
I know.
Hundreds.
Exactly. And that bar was so whippy. I unracked it and it just kept fluttering on my back, and I was like, damn, I hope this stops so I can squat this shit. I don't want this on my back no more. But it was crazy.
How much do you think? So now, think of COVID doesn't happen. You get to go do the animal cage, which you might have to do some explaining what the animal cage is.
Oh yeah, we do that.
So you're at the animal cage. Mm-hmm. What do you think you get there? Because you talk about people hyping you up.
Ooh,
holy
so
shit. I love watching those videos. They're some of my favorite videos.
I did plan on having one of my guys from the gym come with me, and then have my wife in there recording and stuff. So I would at least have 2 people in there with me. But the whole crowd and everybody having Dan Bell around me, man, probably I'm not gonna lie to you, probably 1050.
Yeah.
1060, somewhere around there, I probably would have done for sure.
Yeah, those are, I mean, gym culture is great if it's a good gym culture. Like if you are thinking about starting a gym or participating in a gym, go somewhere where people are talking to each other. If you show up and everybody's got earbuds on and nobody's doing anything with anybody else, that's the wrong gym.
No, that is the wrong gym. It is.
Yeah, go somewhere where there's people doing stuff together.
Yeah, go somewhere that actually has some like-minded individuals as you. Mm-hmm. That might help a lot. People that are passionate about something. Doesn't even have to be about powerlifting. It could just be about bodybuilding. Anything.
Really anything. Even if you were just going to a gym for fitness, like general fitness. Go to a place where there's other people that are trying to hit those goals and you're just going to be more successful.
Yeah, I worked out one time for a little while with a lady who was 57 and just wanted to be in better shape. And I was like, hell yeah, let's do it. Great workout partner.
That's what I like. That's what I try to tell everybody. It's a part of my team. I don't care if you're lifting 900 pounds or 5 pounds. If you're trying and you're doing it and you're here participating and putting in effort, that's the best thing in the world. I'm going to get hyped up if you only bench 5 pounds. I don't even care. Care. So.
Well, and we all, I mean, anybody who's been doing it knows that the best part is the process. The best part is going in and getting tired and doing stuff and trying and you don't have to be strong to do that.
No. Just trying is good enough in my opinion.
And you don't got to be strong to hit you don't got to be strong to hit a new PR,
Yep.
No,
right?
no.
Like we've talked about this before, like the 1%. Like on a population level, like my best lifts are really, really good
Mhm.
Oh
compared to
yeah,
most
no,
humans.
for sure.
In this conversation, like Logan is basically he's almost twice as strong as my best total. Like, man, like that's so like if you're only comparing yourself to the top, like that should be crippling.
Uh-huh.
Where I'm like, oh my god, but that's not how it is.
Yeah.
Right? Like I would still if I got myself back to my best total or got a new PR in total, like I'd be fucking hyped up.
Yeah. It's you
You know?
against you. It's not you
Right.
against me. You
Yeah.
know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's never
Thank God.
about like what I'm doing or what the best person in the world in your weight class is doing. If you keep like my mindset was, if I just keep doing this shit, eventually I'm gonna see my name somewhere, right? And then it just happened. I happened to be like top 10 or top 15 in the world. And then it was like, okay, 5 more spots and now I'm top 10. All right, 5 more spots and now I'm top 5. And then eventually at one point in time when it was in that sleeve total, the 2355, I was second all time in the world for a couple years, at least a
Do you
few
know
years.
do you know what the number one total was at the time?
The number one was Ray Williams at the time, I think. Ray Williams.
Yeah, he's pretty strong.
Yeah, he's all right. He's all right. Yeah, no, he's incredibly strong. He's a great
Yeah.
athlete. I respect anybody that wants to do USAPL or IPF lifts because I mean you're just taking yourself, of course, to another level. You're fucking squatting on a power bar. Like, are you kidding me? I would never want to do the weight that I do on a power bar. You couldn't pay me to do that.
Yeah.
And just the fact that you're walking out that weight too, and the judging is pretty consistent. Now, I'm not going to say that the meets that I've done haven't been consistent on judging, but there's still discrepancies on every federation, in my opinion, too. So,
Yeah.
The one thing that I feel like I've noticed is having done a lot of my experiences in the USAPL, like both lifting and coaching, at least at that level. It's sometimes I feel like they judge almost overly harsh to prove a point of how great
Yeah.
how great they are as
Yes.
a federation.
Yeah.
absolutely.
Squatting to depth is squatting to depth.
Yeah.
We don't see like I've seen guys I have videos of people where it's like, all right, they are by every account below depth. Maybe not a
Oh,
ton
yeah.
below, but they are
Oh,
freaking
yeah.
below depth. Red.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what the
The-
fuck is going on here? Like,
Yeah.
There was a few years ago, and I feel bad I can't remember who the lifter was, but it was kind of a middleweight female lifter at IPF Worlds, and she got 3 red flags on a squat that you could see from the front, like
That she hit depth,
that,
yeah.
the not the crease of her hip, which is what you're supposed to be looking at, right? But where her
Mhm.
thigh touches like her stomach, right, was
Oh, yeah.
below the top of her knees, and
Yeah.
it was like I mean it was a solid 3 inches below parallel, and she got 3 red flags, and I was like, who is doing this?
No, I know.
but
Like,
as long as they're staying consistent, then it is what it is.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's just a different.
Yes.
You just gotta. I tell my kids, especially coming from the Washington Federation we're in, it's all volunteer judges.
Mhm.
Like I tell my if you yell loud enough, like I as a coach have definitely yelled loud enough to get green flags for my kids lifting. 'Cause
Oh, yeah.
I knew it was high, so I just fucking celebrated hard enough that they were nervous. They were like, "Oh, it must have been
Give
good."
it to
Coach knows
yeah,
what he's
just-
talking about. Yeah, baby, good job. It's like- but that's not happening.
Yeah.
So I tell the kids like, I don't care what you squat, you don't squat that in USAPL.
Yeah.
This
Oh
is a
no.
different
Yeah,
beast. Getting
I've seen like some meets that like if you have a well-known name and enough of a following,
Right.
they'll probably just give you whatever you want. Unfortunately, not to sound like that, but it's to help them promote their own federation. So,
Right.
they're going to want the biggest lifts, the biggest squat, the biggest bench, the biggest deadlift. They want that all there. So sometimes you get a little bit of a leeway, there's a little bit of a discrepancy, but at the same time though, you just try to help like hold yourself to a standard.
Yeah.
If you don't hold yourself to a standard, then I don't know what can't really.
Just hope
Well,
that judging is fair.
I don't ever
Exactly.
want a video of me competing to be circulating the internet being like, look at this jackass. I
Yeah.
got 2 white lights for the squat, Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
And have it be
Understand.
earned. I mean, people are going to troll you anyway, no matter what you do. But I don't want it
Yeah.
to be real, you know.
Yeah. I always like tell this to everybody. I'm like, we all squat high. It's all at this point in time. There's no, you can't tell me I'm either squatting to depth or not squatting to depth. It's just we all squat high because I've had so many trolls and just so many things. Well, you cut this, you do that, you do this. I'm like, yeah, well, I go to their page and they can't even hit depth at 225 themselves. So it's just really good to say we all squat high and either we get white lights or don't get white lights. It's all it is. So,
Yeah.
I think it was Boris Shako, who, if you are just new to the thing, you should go look up who Boris Shako is. He's a famous Russian weightlifting coach. Lots of great advice. Really specific programming style, and one of the big high volume guys or high frequency guys.
Yes.
I don't know. There's a lot more to it than that, so I don't want to pigeonhole him. But he said that, like, if the if powerlifting was ever going to make the Olympics, it would probably have to be bench and deadlift.
Yeah, absolutely.
Squat's too hard to judge or something.
Yeah.
I think
it's way too hard to judge. I mean, everyone has like their own standard in their own head. That's probably the issue, really. If we had like some great technology that could streamline and video and figure out where the line is to, all that BS, or the top of the knee where the hip crease is, then we're talking. But as right now, we're all going to have human error. There's never going to not be, like you just said, a deep squat that gets red lights or a high squat that gets white lights. It's just going to happen.
Yeah.
No matter what we do.
My only argument would be for that comment would be like, there is a shit ton of straight judging in the Olympics, right? Like,
oh yeah,
you judge figure skating where you're watching a person whip around 3 times through the air, land, and go like, ooh.
Yeah, but how many?
That was just not good enough. That jump's going 9.7 on that jump. That's all happened fucking rapid as shit. All I need to do is go like, was it parallel or not parallel? Like,
exactly.
So, but I get it. Like,
yeah, but how volatile are those sports too? Like, there's always years where figure skating or gymnastics or whatever, there's some,
But it's in.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
I'm not saying it's right. Like, definitely, if we could get to the AI just telling us we were deep or not, like that's really where we go. Like,
there we go. Some AI judging.
Talked about that before.
Yeah. Machine vision.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, let's talk about some training stuff.
Yeah.
Tell us about
Well, first off, when you got there, have you always coached yourself, or when you got to that?
To a certain point. So the first time that I got a coach was for the U.S. Open. Is right after that back injury that I had happen. The 8 week or like 8 or 10 to 8 weeks out, I decided to message. I don't know if y'all know who David Osborne is, or OPS, his gym. He's in Washington. I think he's on the opposite side over the mountain, the desert side. I forget
the
where.
name sounds familiar, but I can't place it right now.
Yeah. He was my first coach, and I have to give him some big props because he taught me a lot of technique things that I need to fix on, and it really helped my whole squat up tremendously. But he helped me get from barely deadlifting at the time 500 pounds with that back injury to 750 again pretty quickly. Ooh. So he helped a lot. Then we ended up parting ways shortly after that because of just some things that are going on in my life, and some of the training just wasn't working for me at that point in time, and I need to switch some things up. Then I went to and I'm Coach Dubs. That's what I called him. He's on Instagram. It's under Coach Dubs too, if you guys want to look him up. He was absolutely the best thing for my powerlifting career, for sure. He changed everything up for me. He figured out that I couldn't handle the amount of volume that I normally could do. He figured out certain technique issues, keeping me to a certain standard on squat, bench, and deadlifting. I really have to thank or give him all the credit in the world to get me from, I would say, an 850-pound squat by myself all the way up to 1,030 at my end squat.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting to think, we know it in being around powerlifting, but, I'm sure a lot of people get stuck in, okay, this program has got me from, a 300 to a 400-pound squat. I've seen really good results here. I should stay. but not
Yeah.
understanding like, especially early on in the first couple of years, any sort of volume and anything that's linear is going to make you stronger. It doesn't even mean that it's like, it might be the worst strength gain that you could have gotten in that, but you're going to get stronger. So make sure
Yes.
that you're trying things out, and especially if you're not close to a competition, like try high volume, try changing up stances and stuff. You do not know what's going to work perfect if you just go with one way right away. You know, like
stay a student.
Yeah, say like I didn't realize that
Stay a
until I
student.
was, pretty injured and pretty, like way later in my career. I was like, oh man, I respond to volume way better than I ever thought I would.
Yeah, I usually like think of that like people responding better to volume is always kind of a little bit based on, at least in my opinion, like the amount of weight you are lifting, right? I wouldn't want someone that is squatting in the 800s to 900s
Yeah, I
doing
think you got to
a
put that in the
5x5.
calculation.
Yeah,
Right?
5x5, right? Where like if you're squatting in the mid fours, definitely do a 5x5. You need the volume. You need the volume in that.
Yeah.
But yeah, yes, exactly what you were saying though. Just kind of
Yeah.
dictating off of percentages and what you do.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just like Kyle said this earlier of like going and reading the filing cabinets. Part of it was seeing all of this excellent like powerlifting advice.
Yeah.
And then
Track and field,
transposing that
weightlifting.
onto me as like a super novice lifter.
Yeah.
It's like these were never written with me in mind.
Mm-hmm.
These were written for
no.
somebody that was 5 years down the road. So I'm
Absolutely.
getting gains, but it's like, man, I could never get over the hump.
Yeah.
And it's like, well,
Yeah,
because I don't need 15 reps of the squat in 1 week. Like I need freaking 70 reps of the squat.
Yes.
Just to get over those humps. So, like,
yeah,
play around.
Yeah, I mean, in my case, I just was feeling kind of sore and beat up all the time, which everybody told me was normal. But like, you gotta take that with a grain of salt because, like, the most productive training. Whenever I find a thing that's super productive for training, I don't feel beat up and stressed out all the time. Like, I actually feel pretty good by the time it's time to squat or bench or deadlift again.
You should probably feel fresh. Walking back into the gym.
Yeah, and then I started getting sick. I had like a head cold that turned into like bronchitis that turned into pneumonia. Like just like I just wouldn't stop training, and so like 2 months in, I'm just like
yourself down.
Yeah. So like keep an eye out for those things. Like if you do feel beat up all the time and you feel like you're getting a lot of colds and stuff, like that's a sign that you're doing too much.
Yeah, you're overloading that CNS. You're getting too much work. You got to pull back, deload, do something different, rest, eat more, sleep more, all the good stuff.
That's kind of the nice thing about school schedule is like the deloads are just natural. You have a
spring break, winter break,
spring break. And kids aren't like, not every kid is in all 3 trimesters. So like rarely do I feel like I have to get there. There's a couple of stretches where I feel like it's, we might get like 5 weeks in a row where we're going pretty hard. I'll try to sprinkle in a couple of lighter days.
Yeah.
But
all right. So when you're tooling up for your 2355, what does that year look like getting up to that for your training? Because I imagine you had a pretty long plan for doing that total, or were you just doing a meet and then a meet then a meet?
Well, no, I never did. I only did 1 to 2 meets a year. When I got up to about that 2K total, that's when my training just looked different, and I started pulling back on the meets instead of doing like 3 meets a year. I do like just 1, really, realistically. So I gave myself, at least for prep, personally, was 6 months. I'd find a meet 6 months out, and then that's when we're gonna not necessarily start peak week or start peaking for the meet, right? Or anything like that. We're going to train up into that, basically. And the peak would be 10 to 12 weeks usually for me, with deloads sprinkled in there. Every like 4 to 5 weeks, I do a deload week.
So let's talk. That was one of the things that bit me, talking about doing dumb things. Is the first time I did a peak, I was reading a lot about the like East German shot putters, and they had like 12 to 14 week peaks. At least I think that's what it was. I might have it mixed up. It's been so long since I read it, but so I tried my first time doing a peak, like so. Maybe there might be some vocabulary here. So like I generally break my training into like volume blocks, strength blocks, and peaking blocks, right? And so and so some people might call the strength block part of the peak, and so then maybe I'm still doing 12 weeks, but like my real peak is only like 5 or 6 weeks, like 35, 40 days kind of neighborhood. is where
Yeah.
I'm really doing the heavy or the fast or whatever it is for that
Yes.
sport, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And so, but trying to do that, like the heavy and the fast for 12 weeks was way too long. Like when
No.
you,
Yeah.
yeah, when you leave that volume block behind, your fitness starts going down, and you
Yes.
can only drive up that performance for so long before you end
Yes.
up, on the other side of that curve too. And that's not a
Hmm.
fun spot to be coming into a meet.
No. Yeah. Like, when we started, like, if we said, let's just say I started 12 weeks out, I would have a main lift, a secondary lift, and about, I don't know, somewhere. It depends. If like bench, I would probably put that up higher because of the sheer fact that I wasn't the best bencher,
Hmm.
and I still wasn't the best bencher in my weight class. So I would have like 5 to 7 accessory movements to help with that. Sorry about that. Um,
That's all right.
and then we I would go from like that to basically not much more than just doing the main lift and just a couple accessory movements after that. So it kind of trickled down the closer and closer we got to the meet to just basically being very specific on everything. When we
So
got to about, go ahead, sorry.
I was just gonna ask a clarifying question.
Yeah.
So the first few
Yeah.
weeks, you still have quite a bit of volume just in like maybe those few accessory exercises that you're doing, like, and
Yes,
then
like I'm doing three
those
sets
taper
of
too.
12, 15, that kind of
Yeah, yeah,
thing,
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. All right, and then you were gonna say, didn't mean to interrupt you. Sorry.
Oh, yeah, no, you're good. So then like I said, started with that. And then when we got closer, about 6 weeks out from a meet, I'm basically only doing a squat, a bench, a deadlift, working up to heavy triples or something like that, maybe 4 reps at most. And then we're doing, depending on the lift, it was mostly bench, deadlift, and squat. I didn't do a back offset. Bench, I do back offsets, just really lower the weight and just kind of do a little bit of volume. And then very specific on squat and deadlifting, I would focus on hamstrings and back, maybe a pull down, a hamstring curl. Same with squat, it'd be quad specific and then core on everything. I do core on everything. I really believe in that stuff. If you don't have a strong core, you're probably not going to be strong at any of the lifts, in my opinion. So, um, then, oh, yeah, just be very specific. So just be singles basically up until a certain point. Yeah,
Yeah.
So I
not a
got
lot of
two things
accessories.
coming out of that. So just to be more specific, and you might not have perfect examples of this, I'm putting on the spot, but like let's say like 3 weeks out, could you tell us like what? Let's say it's squats. It's a
Hmm.
squat day. Like what does that look like time wise? Like from the time you
Ooh,
walk into a gym, like 3 weeks out. So we're getting pretty damn
yeah,
close to the
yeah,
right. How's the time? And then the second one after we talk about that, maybe like just because I know the kids that I train, like some examples of your core
yeah,
exercises. Because
yeah, yeah,
a lot of kids ask me like, I'd love to do some core, and I always
yeah.
have to ask like core or abs.
Yeah, there's
Do you want
difference.
core activities or
Yeah,
do you want ab act? And most of the
yeah,
time they go abs.
I want a 6-pack.
Yeah, yeah. And I say just eat better. Like that's like
yes.
do your core activities and eat better.
So
But
like three weeks out, I'm technically hitting my heaviest lifts at that point in time. So I am doing working up to singles at that point in time. So if it was a squat day, I would probably get there around, oh, I don't know, like 3-ish, and then I wouldn't be leaving until, well, yeah. Uh, it would be like it would be long. It would be long. I would say probably almost till 7 or 8,
Yeah.
7 or 8, maybe even later, some days. It just depending if, especially if I'm doing a wrap squat, yeah, I'm not probably getting out of there till 10 at that point some days.
yeah, because most
And
people would
then
think like, oh, you're only doing squat. That must be such a fast workout.
no,
Like no, he's taking
yeah,
multiple
no.
singles at like plus 900.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then
Rest periods would be
I'm
intense.
resting for, as long as I need basically at that
Yeah.
point. So it would be anywhere from probably like at most 5 minutes. I'm taking a rest in between each lift at that point. But yeah, then it would be, like I said, maybe 2 or 3 accessories and get the hell out of there, that kind of
Yeah.
a thing. But it would be workout 4 days a week. It's at my peak, that's what I did. I needed the days off because of how much weight I was constantly throwing up and stuff like that. And yeah, 3 days a week off, 4 days on. I would do like a upper day on that fourth day, just kind of like get a pump and leave kind of a thing. But
Just
yeah,
look
this
good.
3 weeks out, I'm definitely doing the heaviest I possibly can. Then I'm hitting a deload week, 2 weeks out, and the week of the meet, I'm basically resting until meet day.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That whole process of peaking for meets is pretty involved. You know, for anything, like whatever your sport
Yeah.
is, like it takes some
Oh
time.
yeah.
How many times do you think you went through a peak before you felt like you had it dialed in?
Um, After I hit the 19 something, I figured
Hmm.
out, 3 weeks out, I know for sure I'm hitting these numbers, that kind of a thing.
Right.
And then it would be kind of before the coaching, of course, it was kind of like, let me just guess on what I'm doing, on
Yeah.
that kind of a thing. And
Yeah.
it would work, but when I got coaching, it became more dialed in on specifics instead of me just kind of today I'm gonna pause squat,
Yeah.
like that kind of thing.
Right.
It would
It
be
kind of
more
takes like
specific.
the sitting down and like building an intelligent program. The problem when you're doing it for yourself is you let
Hmm.
emotion and then like how you feel. Like
Absolutely.
sometimes like, oh, I'm feeling great. Let me push it a little bit. It's like
Hmm.
that's not what we're doing. Like that's this
Nope.
step is part of the program.
Yeah.
Quit
Yes.
getting out of it. So having a coach or having someone that you have to answer to, I think, is a really good idea for that.
Honestly, having just a program. I don't even
Right.
like I'm a coach and I'm promoting you not to have a coach. That's kind of ironic. But the thing is, like, you don't need a coach unless you're not keeping yourself accountable.
Hmm.
If you're able to keep yourself accountable, a program will go so far, in my opinion. I think as long as you can approach the programming with a good mindset and good work ethic, I think most can help anybody get a
Yeah.
PR or do something for you. You know,
I've met like 7 people that could hold themselves accountable.
yeah, that's the problem.
I think you might be
Yeah,
one of them. Cofield's one of
yeah,
them. I'm not.
yes.
No, I can't hold myself. Are you kidding, man? I'm gonna go in every day and train until my arms fall off. I'm an
Well,
idiot. Like,
yeah,
every program I've ever written, I've been like, I can do more today. Why not? You
yeah.
know?
For sure. No, and I've been there. I've been there plenty of times, and that's when the coach really came in handy. It was to go, hey, stop doing that. You're
Yeah.
you're stupid. Like
Yeah.
stop doing that.
Yeah, I was actually just gonna ask if when you got a coach, if the advice was to do more or to do less, because
Oh
usually
boy,
my kids fall in one group or the other,
yes.
Yeah.
I would say like it was kind of an in between. It would be some days it would be like, I'd message them and be like, I really don't feel like it today. It's, I don't know how I feel. And they would end up going, well, keep warming up, do smaller jumps and then figure it out. Right.
Uh-huh.
And then that was kind of the key right there. Boom. Oh, that felt better. All right. He's right. Just take it slower instead of going fast. And then, some days it didn't matter what I warmed up with. It felt like shit until I had 800 pounds on my back. And then all of a sudden it was all right.
Yeah.
And I know that sounds strange, but at a certain point, it ended up being like just off my own judgment. If the coach would be like, hey, go in there. If you don't feel like it, go home. Like just go home. Don't even bother with it because your risk to reward is very
Yeah.
minimal at that point. So we don't want to risk anything. We want to
Yeah.
just go home and rest.
And like just because you're ultra strong doesn't mean
Yeah.
the weight is not heavy.
Yeah.
So like 400
No, yeah.
pounds of something is a heavy ass
Yes.
weight, like on
Uh,
your bones and
right.
body. But the thing is, like the stronger you get, like if I'm going to pick something up at 400 pounds of anything, like my adrenaline's going to start to dump. Like I'm going to feel good because it's a nerve wracking type thing.
Mhm.
For you guys, right? Like your body's not going to be primed. It's going to be like a 400-pound squat. Like who the hell cares? But it's still not nothing.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? So there's more chance that
You
you're
can
gonna
still
come.
really mess yourself
This
up.
feels like shit.
Yeah.
500 pounds, like, oh my God, this feels like shit. So,
Yeah.
like, it's just like when, like, I train people running. They're like, well, the faster kids are having an easier time. Like, no, they're not. They've just learned how to push themselves harder. They're sucking more than you. They just know how to do it.
Yeah.
So, like, just because you're getting stronger or better at something doesn't mean shit gets easier.
Yeah.
It probably gets harder.
Yeah, it does. It definitely does get harder. Like honestly, when I look back at my younger self, I'm like, man, you had it made because it was a lot easier to figure out things, in my opinion, compared to like when I got to above an 800-pound squat, it really started to become tedious. on certain things, the warm ups, how I warmed up. I wouldn't put anything less than 300 plus pounds on my back for a warm up. I didn't warm up with a bar. That was pointless at that point, and the same with deadlift. I didn't have anything less than 315 on the bar if I'm warming up, kind of a thing. Now bench, I would still warm up with a plate, but like again, it was just because I was never the best at benching, for my weight class. Yeah.
Comparatively, you were weaker on bench.
Yes.
That kind of reminds me
Absolutely.
of one of my favorite Arnold quotes, where he's like, "You gotta trick them. Your body's gonna understand what you're doing. You gotta trick it. Some days come in, it knows I always start with 135. Some days just start benching with 315." And it's like, Arnold,
Yeah.
who are you telling this advice to? Like,
Yeah.
how
Please
many
don't do
people out
that.
there just
Yeah.
are so strong that they could just start? Let's just jump into 315. Like,
Yeah.
No.
Well, I know-
Yeah. I've never done that.
Well, I notice now that like I'm getting older because I'm 40. I'm gonna be 41 pretty soon, and like you just talked about not starting your squat with less than 300. My squats start with body weight, and I gotta get that. I gotta get that one set of body weight squat in, and then I don't. The second set, I don't feel like I'm 40 anymore, but that first set, goddamn.
No, yeah. I mean, there's been days where I'd walk in there and I'm like, ah, shit, I got to do this again. This is awful. This is awful. And then my 70% are in the 700 plus pounds. So it's like, I'm like, I'm never getting a break. I just am constantly just whooping my own ass kind of a thing.
Gotta be like, that's the mental fatigue.
Oh God,
stress that takes of like constantly being at such high weight must be like, it must take a toll.
Yes, it's a constant battle mentally, just because of the fact that like I had to constantly somehow give myself motivation, even though at that point in time, my motivations change. It's just like when you get older, your whole life changes. Like I feel like your priorities change a little bit here and there. 22-year-old Logan isn't the same as now 30-year-old Logan, kind of a thing mentally. I could at 22, I can get hyped up if you just walk past me funny, and then, now that now it's like, whatever, I'm just here. I'm just going to try my best, so it's just like yes, you just got to figure it out. And, I use a lot of like life, things that have happened in the past, and just going through hardships as a kid and stuff like that as my motivation. But, sometimes that can be a good thing, and sometimes that can actually pull you out of the competition completely, right? I had, like I said, the U.S. Open. My first squat was white lights, 2 white, 1 red. We were good, so we moved on to second. My second attempt was at 936. They red lighted my ass on that second attempt, and I was like, shit, what am I going to do? We just retook the second attempt, of course. But I had to like really dig deep in my mind, and like I almost made myself more tired by hyping myself up so much to the point where when I got to bench and deadlift, I only had my openers and that was it. Like I couldn't do anything else, and I couldn't get hype anymore. I couldn't. I already used it all. I used it all.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you gotta have to like turn it like a knob on an amplifier. You start with about a 3 and a 4, then you go to like a 6 or a 7, then you turn it up to fucking 11, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So that's how I usually put it.
Getting kids, because we mostly were high school kids, and getting kids through a powerlifting meet is always an interesting thing, because it's like you can't do max effort 9 times in a row. Like you just it's not happening.
No,
like,
it's not.
You've got to like kind of my standard advice for like picking your attempts is like your opening is a heavy triple, and then it's about 6% after that. That's 3 to 6% after that.
That's a perfect standard. That's a perfect standard. Yeah.
Yeah, and so we give that's the advice I usually give kids, and I'm like, you have to just go into that opening lift believing that you're going to do it, and don't worry about it. Like just show up, do the same thing you've been doing, do it smooth.
Absolutely.
Like if you are getting jacked up for your first squat, you've lost the meet already.
Exactly. No.
The opener is there so you don't lose the meet. It's not to win the meet.
Yeah. The opener is there so that you can be on the podium. Like that's
exactly. So you don't bomb out.
Some kids, it'll be like, I think I should push my opener.
Yeah.
Well, what are you going for? I'm going for 315. Like, what are you trying to push your opener? You're like, maybe 305. And I'll go 305, 310, 315. Like, what a damn waste of energy.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
275, 300, 315.
Yeah, yeah.
You're fine.
Way too
Yeah.
much.
Shut
Way
up
too
and
much.
do it. Like,
Exactly.
Yeah, so like that part of the game is really important. Like if you are again, if you're going in that first bench or that first squat or that first deadlift and you're already like in the hole, like man, that's gonna be a rough day. It's gonna be a real rough
Absolutely.
day.
you better have energy for that third deadlift.
Exactly. And that's what I had to tell myself. The older I kept getting, I'm like, I can't keep doing this. I can't keep doing this because we're gonna ruin it. We're gonna ruin it. And then I did that sleeve meet, and I really just had so much fun. I had so much fun. There was no wrapping. I wasn't getting, basically punched in the face or punched in the knee consistently by somebody. It was, I could just walk around and fist bump people and just be like, let's go. We're having fun now. And then we get to a wrap meet. And I'm like, oh dear God, here we go. We have to get squats out of the way or I'm screwed, and it's like my last meet that I did when I hit the 1,030. The warm-ups were so fast. I could only finish with a 765 squat.
Yeah.
On my warm-ups, and then I had to go straight into 945. And that was just a
decent jump there.
Yeah, that was yeah. It was a mental jump that I had to I had to really focus. Like there was I had to give it up my all. And then the third attempt was, of course, since it was, or my second attempt was my first 1,000-pound squat in comp. And I dug even more deeper. And then that 1,030 was just a cherry to the top of I just spent all my energy on one lift kind of a thing. And then I just get my openers on the other two. Again, another wrap meet that does that again for me. So I don't think, if I wanted to be a 9-for-9 lifter, in my opinion, to most people, even kids getting started in this stuff, be a sleeve.
Yeah.
Just do sleeves.
Yeah.
Just do sleeves.
Yeah.
If you want to be a really good squatter and an okay bencher and deadlifter, do wraps. That's fine. That's how I look at it. So,
right.
Because you're going to waste so much energy on that wrap squat. It's not even funny.
Yeah. And well, it's one less thing. A big part of success in a meet is that you can follow whatever your routines are, so
Yes.
Whatever your gym routine is, it's got to be something you can reproduce outside of the gym if you want to have a good time at a meet.
Yep.
But then when you throw in that layer of I need to learn how to use these 3-meter wraps, or I need to have somebody with me who knows how to do these 3-meter wraps.
Exactly.
Or, just imagine being a great wrap squatter, and you show up at the meet, and your guy who normally wraps your knees has got just the worst explosive diarrhea ever, and he's stuck in the hotel room.
Then you're screwed.
Yeah, you're screwed. Your meet's not happening.
Exactly.
Especially, so we'd used those Inzer wraps for a long time, but we had a couple of kids that were going in and doing some wrap meets, and so we went and bought. I don't remember what brand they are, but they're like Destroyers. They were a $100 wrap instead of a $10.
Yeah.
Really tear up their knees. That's good.
But I didn't actually have the freaking upper body strength to actually crank them out. Man,
that's where those Popeye forearms come in handy. You know what I'm saying?
It was
that's right.
Kyle had to wrap those. I was like, all right, I'll wrap the rest of the kids. You've got to wrap these two.
Yeah, but then it's meet day, and they've got me wrapping their knees, and I'm like, have you ever had me wrapped? I've done it a bunch of times. Go for it. Crank them on there. And I'm like, all right. Too tight.
Yes.
Go.
That's exactly what happens when I wrap somebody. I'm like, I'm going to give you a 5. And they're like, oh, yeah, that sounds so enjoyable. And then I get that first, I basically overlap that patella tendon, and they're like, this is, I'm going to die. This is great. Exactly. No.
It's when you go to a Thai restaurant and you know that they don't like their customers. And they're like, how spicy do you want it? And I don't want spicy at all. But they're like, it's going to be spicy.
Yeah, too bad. You're going to take it.
5.
Yes.
So I want to ask you about coaching, because you kind of started, you started a transition. But before we get there, we got to do the Monroe's random ass question.
Yeah.
And again, like I've said, the Monroe, the randomness really is variable. This is not very random, but whatever. I get to pick whatever freaking question I want. It's our podcast. Say something about it in the comments. And then hop over to Instagram and comment there, too.
Yeah.
How much we suck. But tell other people.
Tell
But
everybody else that we suck so we can.
Yeah.
what is it? Could be just like it's basically like what is the worst injury? It doesn't necessarily have to be like this was like this put me out for years, but like what's the worst injury you had and in training? So mine is going to be I'll start off and just so you guys see what I'm talking about. It was at Anytime Fitness, and I was warming up. Two people were on the squat. There's only 2 squat racks, and people were there, and I forget I had to go somewhere, and I was like, dude, I want to get a squat in. So I was like, whatever, I'm gonna go use the friggin' Smith machine. I've never used a Smith machine. I put on 135 and popped a hernia on 135, and I felt it happen. Like I was just like, like fell over. And I was like, oh my god, like what? Just because I got like so like you know what I mean, like I went down and I've never used one, so it like got me like weird out of position. Like at the time, I was probably mid-4 squatter. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
not
You were in
heavy,
shape. You were in
not
shape.
heavy at all.
Yeah.
I was in the army, like in the military, like. So, but it was just like such a weird like position, and I guess it's because like I low bar. I was probably like too far up or something because I low bar and I'm pretty.
Well, the Smith machine was at an angle.
It's a little bit of an angle,
so there's a right way to be in there.
Yeah. I was probably backwards in it.
There is.
Just 35, I get a hernia, and I was out for 6 months because the army and nothing moves fast.
Yeah.
So,
oh my gosh, that's
that
crazy.
Is by far the most embarrassing training. Well, I also couldn't move my arm for like 6 weeks because I was leading the football team in neck rolls, and I got to like one angle, and I was just like, so I couldn't lift an arm for like 6 weeks. Just pinched a nerve or something.
That's awesome.
So that's what I mean by worst. Not necessarily the most terrible. It can be if you want that.
Yeah.
I figured you would like this because I don't even know which one to choose. It's a common theme to talk about injuries. So
yeah,
I got one. I got one, and it's from my most recent meet. It would be I tore my quad. It was a grade 2 strain. It didn't fully detach. You know what I mean? But it's been about a year now, and I'm still not the same. You know, I'm not even close to being the same. I recently got under about 600 pounds. It moved absolutely incredible. But the day after, my knee's swollen. I can't move it. I'm just sitting there, you know, I'm like, this is terrible. This hurts. I don't like this. And it was during I was doing a comeback meet because I did a little stint in boxing. I did an amateur fight, and then I came back to do a meet because I fell.
About that before we go.
Yeah, that was that was fun. And then so I come back from that. I give myself about a year's worth of training to get back, but I got back really strong really quickly, and I think that's what ended up happening.
Too soon.
Right.
Exactly. And I went from a 700-pound squat back up to at least a 900-pound squat in 6 months. So it was it was not good. So
that's something a lot of people don't realize is that I think there's pretty good research that talks about like if you're immobilized, like you break an arm or something and you're or a knee and you're in a cast and you're just immobilized. If you're immobilized for 6 weeks, it could be 9 months or a year and a half until that ligament is back to full strength. Tendons will go a little faster and muscles will go faster, but it still takes a pretty significant window to come back from a really serious injury. So coming back in a year is pretty fast.
No, and it was like you said, it was just too fast. And then it was during the meet, I hit my opener. It was like 820 or it was like 820 or 840, somewhere around there. And it moved like absolute air. Like I could have done it for a set of 5. And then I was like, let's go 860. And then I'm going to match my best knee sleeve squat, which was 925 at the time, on my third. And then that 860 ended up just popping my quad. So I ended up not doing the rest of the meet. I had to get my knee sleeve cut off because I had, I don't know if you heard of the new Pioneer Ghost thick. They're incredible. They feel like a light wrap almost. That's how stiff they are. I can literally put a 55-pound kilo plate on there and it will stand. It'll stand up still. So those are great for squatting if anybody wants those. But it just I just got too strong too quick, and then after that, I took some time off, of course, rehabbed it, got it back to where I could do normal life and day-to-day
Mhm.
tasks and stuff. And then slowly but surely, my mindset, I was getting old, I'm older, and I'm in my 30s. I realistically, how much more time do I have in the sport doing these kind of weights? And then it became like, when I have a kid eventually, I want to be able to run around with that kid, do things with that kid. And I'm not going to be able to do that if my whole knee's blown out. And
Yeah.
I just don't want to be that person. I want to be able to have a relatively normal life still outside of the sport, and be able to work still and do things normal life. And I just decided to retire. I'm good with what I've done. I don't have nothing to prove to nobody in this sport.
No. Yeah.
I became one of the strongest people in the world, and I'm proud of myself for that. And I think I'm happier being a coach now and really just putting my time and effort into other people that deserve it. And
Yeah.
I love that. So,
Yeah, lifting weights is great for a person's like health, mental well-being,
oh
everything.
yeah,
But trying to be as
absolutely.
strong as you physically can be is a
Yeah.
whole nother level of like
Yes.
you probably leave healthy behind at some point, trying to get super strong.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. No, you definitely
Like,
do. You stop caring about yourself a little bit too and worrying about what's going on in the bar more than anything.
yeah. Well, and when
And
you were talking about having days where you came in and you hated the weight room, I remember the last like really good peak that I had. I wasn't lifting for any, I was just lifting for myself. It was all just
yeah,
dumb lifts that I was doing and stuff. But I remember like at some point, like everywhere that I touched a bar would burn. Like my hands just
yeah.
hated me, my shoulders hated me. Like every single exercise that I was doing was over 400 pounds, and it was like my hands were like, this is
Oh,
just too much, man. It's just too much.
dude, absolutely. I understand that completely. I got to a point where it was like when I went to the gym, and it was kind of like a few months after that, my biggest total in reps. I just kept coming to the gym, and then slowly but surely, all my teammates and friends like got jobs and were moving away, and doing different things in life. Some people went to fighting and other things, and it got to a point where I was just in there by myself and still having to do 800, 700 plus pound for reps and sets, and I'm by myself. And it became like, what the fuck am I doing this for?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, and then
Yeah,
I have
you
no
lost all
health
that.
on top of that. And I just it started to dwell on me a little bit more too. It kind of like, what am I doing with my life? Am I successful in anything else besides this? And it just became just a lot of depression and a lot of
Right.
just hatred, actually, a little bit of hatred towards the lifting, and I had to get out of it. So I
Yeah.
walked away from that, and that's where I went to boxing because a lot of my friends were doing it, and I had fun. I was having I was having a blast, and then one of my buddies, that's his name's Dylan Weinmiller. He is a bare knuckle fighter. He convinced me. He's like, "Hey, man, you're fast for how big you are, and you're pretty strong. You could probably knock somebody
Pretty
out. Why
strong.
don't you do?" Yeah. It- he's like, "I'm pretty sure you can knock somebody out. So why don't you do a fight?" And I said, "You know what? Screw it." You know. And I think getting hit in the face in your lifetime, at least once or twice, or even multiple times, right, is good for you. It's a little
Yes,
bit.
yes.
It's really good for you. I think it's good for your not only your psyche, but your being more humble about your approach to things. And it woke me up to a lot of things that I needed to fix. So I think I'll never not say that
Did
I'm not proud of myself for doing that kind of thing. So.
did you do a bare knuckle fight or did you do
No,
like
no,
boxing?
yeah,
I was like, God damn,
I did
Logan, like,
boxing gloves. No, yeah,
and I
boxing
was
gloves.
like,
My plan was to do a bare knuckle fight eventually, but like after the fight, I ended up winning. I made the guy throw up in the third round, and and then I get back to the gym and I'm thinking, okay, we're gonna get strong for boxing. We're gonna do some strength and conditioning shit and blah blah blah. And then I looked over at the deadlift platform and it started talking to me, and I was like, let me go. Let me
I love
go.
that.
Yeah, let me go.
I'm
Let me
back.
go feel it. Yes,
I'm back.
yes. And I think I put like 700 pounds on there, and I ended up tripling it. And I was like, okay, I'm still really fucking good at this shit. So maybe I
Yeah.
should
Yeah.
still, do
What
this.
doing it at the level that you were doing it, just Kyle had said like eventually it becomes most people get into lifting for like health,
Mhm.
and like you said, like
Performance looking better for the
performance
girls.
looking better for the
Yeah,
girls. I think
yeah.
I just
And
watched
it
a
was
video.
mental, mental
Yeah,
to help with
like-
the mental,
And
Yeah.
whether it's strength gains or muscle wise, like
Mhm.
eventually everything becomes wrapped around the gym.
Mhm.
Like you can't
Yep.
go on a vacation.
Nope.
Like where the hell are you're not just going to go find a random gym that you can squat 800 pounds in.
Nope.
So
You're not.
so that starts to weigh in on all of your relationships, like that. And then like how many people can even relate to the struggles
Yeah.
you're going through? Like
Absolutely.
Mike Israel said it last night. He's like, I stopped looking good to girls 50 pounds of muscle ago.
Absolutely.
It's like
No.
girls are like
Yeah.
it's become
I've never looked good for that. So
fetish.
it
at
never
this point,
was
like you
that.
like giant men that are really hairy, like then I'm your man. But other than that, like,
Exactly.
it's just me and other big dudes. Like that's all the only
Yes.
people that are interested in this shit. So it does like it's just like anything else. Once you put your time in there, like there is going to be a fine line where it was healthy, and then like you do too much of really anything, like it can become
Yeah.
unhealthy to a point, right? Like I would rather somebody be exercising
Mhm.
to an unhealthy pace, but
Yes.
Yeah.
and some
Well,
of the
that's
other
what
things
I was
could be
having
doing,
trouble
but-
with. I think I was having trouble with my identity for a little bit there. At that point in time, I was about 12 to 13 years deep into lifting, nonstop powerlifting. There was no other styles of training I was doing. It was strictly squat, bench, deadlift, squat, bench, deadlift. And with that, just learning more about myself. And like I said, my priorities, the older you get, people will understand. I know y'all do too. It's your priorities change the older you get. It's you're not the same person as you once was, and things become more important. Like, spending time with my wife became way more important to me than just going to the gym for 9 to 10 hours a day. I couldn't do that. That's not fair. You know what I mean? She already went through with me through all my basically my biggest times in my life, basically in powerlifting. And it's time to look, I'm 8 years deep with her being involved in it. Maybe I should spend time with my wife, you crazy
Right.
goon. You know what I mean? Like maybe I should give back a little bit of the things that I've learned to other people and not just worry about myself, I don't want to be just known as the guy that's in the corner of the gym that could squat over 1,000 pounds. I want to be known as one of the best coaches and one of the best lifters to ever be, on the face of this earth. I'd love
Right.
to be a part of that group, the small group that there is of that. So,
Mhm.
Yeah,
You
like I feel like it would be exciting to like from your side, like you've squatted 1,000 pounds. Now, can you coach someone?
yes,
there,
that would
right?
be
You know
dope.
what I mean? Like, can I coach
Love
someone
that.
to beat my,
Yeah.
one
Yeah,
of my records
so
like
play
that?
at me.
Feel like that would be pretty
Mhm.
awesome.
All right, I didn't answer, and so I gotta answer because otherwise Josh will get mad at me when we get off of this thing. I didn't answer the question.
I
you
just
jackass.
realized you haven't answered. That means this clip is going to be like
5 hours long.
18 minutes long. Like, no one's has the
That's
worst
great.
analytics ever.
Okay, so I got three because I actually don't have that many injuries that are actually from the weight room. So like I was real messed up as a kid, and so like when I got to the weight room, it was like 6 months of rehab to be able to squat regularly or deadlift or whatever,
Oh, wow.
And so most of the time it's just that I pissed something off that was already like I don't have a PCL
Yeah.
in either knee, my MCL's trashed, my meniscus is gone, I dislocated my
Yeah.
hip when I was 10, 11, whatever. So like I got a lot of issues. Very few of them come from the weight room. So, but I do have a couple. I recently tore my bicep tendon, and
Heck
almost complete, right? Like it was still holding on by like just a thread. The MRI is pretty cool, but like almost completely ruptured that bicep tendon. So that was one. That was same thing as like the quad tear, right? Like I was
Yeah.
hoping like after like 3 to 6 months I'd be working out again, and it
Yeah.
was like
No.
2 years,
Yeah. Yeah.
and so that one was real annoying. I herniated a disc in my back when I was in high school, and that was the end of my like athletic career. Like I was done with sports after that thing pretty much. But I think the winner, the reigning champion, is I tore my abs like straight across at the belly button.
Oh my God, that's good.
Yeah, it was a good one.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah, it was a good
remember
one.
like the next several days being unable to like stand up all the way. Like, you'd sit in class and then you'd go to get up out of the chair and I'd be like walking to my next class hunched over all Quasimodo. So that one was probably the worst one, just in terms of like I had no idea what was happening or what was going on or why it hurt so bad. It did bruise like the Milky Way, which was really cool. Like it looked like an artist's rendition of the Milky Way, so that was fun.
like a galaxy up in there. Yeah, I
Uh-huh,
like that.
yeah.
I like that. That's good. My quad didn't really bruise that bad. The bruising didn't come up to the surface until like almost 4 or 5 days later.
Uh-huh.
But my physical therapist, he ended up telling me it's because I have so much meat there that the bruising didn't come up until way later down the line. So
Yeah.
Blood
I
couldn't
was like,
find
all
its way
right.
through. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was mine, was the ab tear. I think that was
Mm.
along the same line, you know.
yeah, I was hoping somebody would have been like, you know what I mean, just like, ugh, hurt my back and just crap myself.
No,
You know,
no.
just throw my
I've
brother
came
under
close
that.
to
I did.
crapping myself a few times, so it's okay. It is what it is.
When I first started lifting, one of the regulars of the gym told me that you're not a real power lifter until you shit your pants. And
Ah,
I haven't made it yet. When I was that
ah.
dicey, I just didn't do it, you know?
I've had accidents where, it's like, I probably should go wipe, I probably should go figure out what's going on. But luckily, knock on some wood, we're all
Still
right.
have,
We haven't pooped ourselves yet.
Yeah.
just tell the kids right in the beginning, man, like, squats plus farting, man, just go poop now.
Uh,
You might as well get it out of the way now because that's
Yeah.
the combination you want to flirt with, especially in mixed class.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's valuable powerlifting advice for anybody who's getting in the sport. You want to go to the bathroom before training. Like, just don't.
Absolutely.
Don't
Go
show
take
up
care
on
of
a full
business
tank.
beforehand.
Yeah.
You got anybody? So, had you been coaching kind of the whole time, or is coaching kind of a newer thing? Like,
So I've been coaching for a while. I would say about I started around 2017 coaching, but it was mostly like when I hit my elite total, that's when I started. Hey, maybe I'll help some people out. Maybe I can get some people from point A to point B quicker than it took me. And I definitely didn't know what I was doing still. You know what I mean? Shit, sometimes I feel like I still don't know what I'm doing. I'm still learning and, growing as a coach myself. So at that point in time,
individualized. All the kids or all the people you're coaching, like everybody's going to be different. You think
absolutely.
you'll have it, and
Yes.
you'll get a client that's like, "This isn't working."
Yeah, no, exactly. And that's kind of how it was for me. I would help coach a few of my friends for free. I didn't really take any money at the time, when I first started. Just kind of seeing what worked and what didn't work. And then eventually it grew to, I had a 198er at one point in time, total like 1786 at 198.
Yeah,
He
real
squatted.
respectable.
Oh yeah, squatted over 700 and something pounds. I forget off the top of my head. I think it was like 726. Benching 400. It was like 400 even, like 400.3 or something like that. And then deadlifting over 700 pounds as well. So that was like my best quote unquote client that I grew him from a 1,298 pound total to that 1,700 and something pound total.
Yeah.
So yeah, in about
Yeah.
2 years.
Yeah, that's really impressive growth.
Yeah.
Yeah. Talk about happening fast. Has that been an experience for you? Like, that's been kind of my experience. When I remember like cracking open those filing cabinets, and in them they had like the stress recovery adaptation curve and like the kind of logarithmic growth that you get in strength across your career, And my experience has very much not been logarithmic. Like, it wasn't like I got strong really fast and then a little less strong and then a little less strong. It was more like anytime I found the right thing, I still got strong at the same rate. Like,
yeah,
like I might have a lift that genuinely goes up, 60 pounds in a 4-month training cycle or something, because it was the right training cycle for me to do, even as a very experienced lifter, right? And I never really had that where like, okay, well, it was 100 pounds this year and then 30 pounds the next year. It was more like, 60 or 80 pounds and then nothing, and then 60 or 80 pounds and then nothing.
nothing. Yeah, no. I can attest to that. At my early stages, it was like that for me too. Until like I started simplifying things a little bit more. I think when I first started like doing my own programming for myself, even I would overcomplicate things. I would add so much to my plate when I didn't even need to add that to my plate, kind of a thing. And then also learning step by step with other coaches when I was growing as well, learning how they program, what styles is working, what's not working, and it's simple is more, in my opinion, than actually overdoing it. We can go all day long about talking about what bar does this and that and linear progression or not. conjugate or non-conjugate. We can go all day long about all different kinds of programming. I think if you squat more, you bench more, you deadlift more, you will do more, basically.
Right.
That's my thinking. And then also, if you think this way as well, if we do more of those lifts and then we do things after those lifts to get those lifts stronger, you're going to get stronger.
Yeah.
That's just how I look at it. If you're not bodybuilding while you're powerlifting, you're missing out on something. Just like I tell people that bodybuild, if you're not powerlifting a little bit, then you're missing out on something.
Yeah.
That's just how I look at it.
Yeah, I think that's really great advice because you can't really go full bodybuilder and be a successful powerlifter because you keep too much fatigue, right?
Exactly.
But you should be trying to get your body bigger. Like you should be trying to make changes in tissue. It shouldn't just be heavy singles all the time.
Nope.
Because it's not going to be productive.
You should be paying attention to those smaller muscle groups and make sure everything's stabilized.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the other side of that is, you go through like a real strength block or a real peak, and you really discover what it's like to find some of those inefficiencies in your lift. Like you realize, when I was only doing sets of 15, I could get away with an ugly bench and an ugly squat and an ugly deadlift, right? But like as I started driving that weight up, it started getting real weird. Like it doesn't feel safe. It doesn't feel strong. Stuff is hurting. And so
all those little in-between muscles, you know what I mean? All the little in-betweens.
Yeah. And so sometimes those bouts of heavy training are really instructive for like how you do your light training, like what is a safe and sustainable thing and how can you do it and everything.
Yeah. It's like on squat, when I would do low bar squats, if I pitch forward a lot, I need to fix my upper back is what I would normally work. If my upper back's stronger, I could lead the bar. I could lead the bar with my upper back or chest. I cue things differently than most people. When you squat, I usually say, "Hey, chest up," or lead with the chest with the bar, and that will help the upper back lead the whole lift, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So I would use a safety bar squat because it pinches you forward. So what do you have to do? You have to fight against it. So that's how I would think about working a weakness right there. Same with when I did deadlifts. If I noticed my hamstrings weren't kicking on properly, okay, I need to do more hamstrings or more specific things for my hamstrings to get stronger. It's not at a certain point you got to like pull back and say, is this rocket science or is this lifting weights? Let's figure this out. It's just lifting weights, right? You pick on what things are not working and then make them work. That's just how I think of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's great advice because always finding the thing that you're weak at is going to be. I've told the story before. My whole first 10 years of lifting weights was just high intensity stuff, no volume ever. And you want my pencil and a piece of paper? That's my piece of paper. And then when I came back to training again when I was 30, I did my first real volume session, right? So it was like 3 months of volume, a strength, and a peak, and the whole thing was 5 months. And I went from my best ever bench had previously been like 365 to I don't remember if it was 425 or 440, but it was a 60-pound jump just because I'd never done any volume work before.
Absolutely.
Right? Not really, right? And I never did it because I was bad at it. I didn't like going, I liked being the strongest guy in the gym. So I didn't want to go in do 4 pounds. You do.
Absolutely.
All right, just write a note.
Okay.
I should probably get my own paper over here.
Yeah.
Nope.
It's too late. I wasn't going to give it to you anyway. This whole pile belongs to me. You can bring your own paper.
Yep.
That's right.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about mindset.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a little bit different when it comes to that stuff. So I've given up a lot of things in my life to do what I did on the platform. So I have very little sympathy for people that want to, I would say, bitch about anything and everything they're doing, kind of a thing. If you're going to come in the gym and go, oh, I don't want to do this or blah, 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 then you probably shouldn't do it. So you shouldn't say you want to be the best in the world, kind of a thing. You should probably find a different sport that suits you for your bitching, in my opinion. So, because I did a lot of internally doing that, but I would still show up every day on time, doing the things I had to do to become the best in the world. So I think we're losing a little bit of that today. I feel like a lot of newer lifters want to give up, like y'all say a little bit too, like just give up real easy. You don't want to do it. And, but have all the potential in the world. I was a kid that didn't have genetics, in my opinion, on my side. Yes, I was a bigger kid, but I had to fight tooth and nail to learn how to do any of this shit really good. And so I think we're missing a little bit of the mindset because you can also, in my opinion, manifest things. When I was 16 years old and I did my first meet, I told myself from day one there that I would be one of the best in the world and I will squat over 1,000 pounds. And then guess what? One day I did. And that's because I gave myself some belief in my own doing. Like I told myself that I can finally do something when most of my childhood I didn't believe I could do anything. I was a kid in special ed classes. I had an IEP. I had severe dyslexia. Wasn't really quick on learning books and all that jazz and stuff like that. But when I got into the weight room, I had all these people that like just believed in me, and one of those guys being Chris, being a part of the team. A lot of those guys are the reason why I kept doing what I'm doing to this day. And it was because of that weight room and that camaraderie and the things that I saw in the sport is why I kept doing it for so long. And I think we're missing a lot of that, especially with Instagram nowadays, the shit talk and all this other things, the nitpicking and blah, blah, blah. How about we just tell each other we're doing good? You know what I mean? Like we're doing a great job, or we're trying to get better, or we're trying to do things right. Instead of you squatted this high, you're not good enough. You can't do this. You can't do that. I hate that shit. That pisses me off a lot, especially with these newer lifters. I got a couple new kids that, kind of constantly go, oh, I hope I can get this. Well, since you hope you can get this, you're probably not going to get it now.
Right.
You should already know when you're walking up to that bar that you can do it, regardless if it happens or not, right? You need to believe that you can do it. And, it's hard to get people to get on that bandwagon a little bit because a lot of people just don't want to, I don't know. It's just like this lack of self-belief, and I get it. I've been there multiple times, doubted myself in everything and aspect of life except for the gym. So I get when people go, I can't do this, but you can, as long as I don't know, just it sounds cliche. It's just believe in yourself a little bit and give yourself something in your life to be happy and proud of yourself of. You'd be surprised where that could go,
Yeah. Yeah. And just like, my favorite thing in the weight room working with kids is when they go to do something and they're scared to death and then they do it and it's successful. Like
man.
the amount of confidence boost that's in there,
Yeah.
like the ability to start building on that, to start learning to trust yourself and that you can do things is huge. But like to do it, there's got to be an environment where like you feel engaged and you feel safe and like nobody's going to go into a weight room where they don't know anybody and they don't know how to use the equipment and show up and give really 100%, right? Because
of course, no,
you don't want to fail in front of people you don't know are going to have your back, right? You don't want to fail and get hurt. You don't want to all those other things, right? So like I think a big part of that comes right back around to the culture like we were talking about earlier. Like you got to be supportive of the other people in the weight room. You got to be excited to see them be successful. You got to be encouraging, like because it won't come back to you if you aren't paying it out.
Exactly.
In weightlifting, it is a place where you got to feel comfortable failing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're going to fail all the time.
Yeah.
And so often you're failing at one point or another, whether it's just failing on a set, maybe it's planned failure, right? Or maybe it's I'm going for 10, you get 9. Like you can't be afraid of that shit. You definitely can't be afraid that everybody around you is then going to fucking mock you.
Yeah.
But all these younger kids grew up online, and that's the environment. And also everything there is so fast, just like we talked about. Like at the smallest, like 6 months is probably the smallest time frame you're probably making any realistic goals, right?
Absolutely.
So like, can these guys get over the fear of failing in front of others and set like, all right, this is a 6 to 24 month goal, or like for you, like from that junior year, that was probably like an 8-year goal or something like that for hitting that 1,000-pound squat. Like, and everything you did was towards that one goal. Like that's a long fucking time to go after one goal.
I had a notebook, and I still have it to this day from high school, that I was writing down periods of my life from 16 to 25 what numbers I wanted to achieve and what I wanted to hit. Like this was real for me. You know what I mean? Like I don't sugarcoat it. I don't try to play it off as, oh, I just one day walked in the gym and I could squat 1,000. It was never like that. It was I legitimately quit jobs to do what I needed to do to become the best in the world.
Yeah.
I'm not proud of saying that, you know what I mean? I'm not saying you should go do that to be one of the best in the world, but if it wasn't fitting my end goal, you are not going to stop me from my end goal. I would do anything in my power to get from point A to point B. And that's where I'm, I have to be better as a coach too sometimes, because I have to understand, not everybody's going to have that kind of extreme mindset to be that way. But at the same time, I also am like, you still have to believe in yourself, or you're not going to achieve anything that you're wanting to do in this at all.
Yeah.
It just straight up, you're just not. You're not. And I've yet to see it too. I've been proven by that, by many of people, by many of years of doing this shit, that unless you believe in yourself, you're not going to achieve anything. You're just going to be, whatever you end up being, which is cool. It's all good. You know what I mean? You do what you want to do, but you don't come up to, I guess, a guy like me and say, hey, I want to be the best in the world. And then like 12 weeks later, you're like, holy shit, I can't do this no more. I'm like, yeah, what?
Yeah,
That doesn't make any sense. Doesn't make any sense.
Right, like someone who's driven and believed in the goal. Anytime, let's say you went to a meet and failed, or maybe you had a bad week or whatever, where you had a down week.
For sure.
That was the anomaly on the way to the goal. Whereas somebody, if you don't have self-belief, as soon as that happens, as soon as that curve comes back down a little bit, that's just going to prove to you that, yep, I was right.
Yeah, you're doing the wrong thing.
I can't do this. You're not going to ride that wave back to the gains and then ride that wave back, like you said. Like, it might not be a curve, but it's usually not just that until you get your goal. There's going to be periods of just bullshit and injury or whatever. Like, you got to just,
absolutely,
if you want something, you got to do it.
Yeah. Yep.
I just hate the word I can't. You know what I mean? Oh, I can't eat clean because of this and my job and that shit. Or I can't drink a gallon of water a day because, I just don't have time. And, oh, I can't do this, or I can't get 8 hours of sleep, and blah, 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 blah. I hate that shit. It pisses me off. It's just ignorant, in my opinion. You can do it if you actually put in the effort to do it.
Yeah.
If you don't try, then how do you even know? Like, how do you even know what you're capable of as a person? You know what I mean? Like,
and the funny thing is, once you accomplish those things, like, me included, right? Like, just because we're coaches doesn't mean we don't get out of sync with ourselves. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
We talk about that all the time. It's like we're almost our worst trainers, like,
yeah.
But once you do it, like, say drinking a gallon of water, like, once you just drink your damn water, like, it really is not even difficult at all. You just make sure that you're drinking water throughout the day.
Exactly.
Like, that's not a real difficult fucking thing.
Yeah.
Just don't put the candy bar in your mouth.
Yeah,
absolutely.
That's all you gotta do.
Do you really think I wanted to sit down 5 to 6 times a day eating 2,000 to 3,000 calories in one bowl staring at me? No, I didn't want to do that. I hated that. It was miserable. But the point is, if I didn't do that, I wouldn't have accomplished what I did, kind of a thing. If everything that I did was literally, I'm putting this down in front of me, or I'm doing this certain thing, it's because the end goal is to squat over 1,000 pounds. Period. Nothing, no end of discussion, kind of a thing.
Yeah, 99% of the time that a kid tells me I can't, they just mean I won't.
Yeah. Exactly.
Like,
yes, sir.
The wrong language.
Absolutely.
Not accurately describing what's happening.
Nope.
Yeah.
Nope.
Yeah.
And I was one of those kids that's like, I hated, even when at a certain point in the weight room, I hated hearing other kids bitching about the weight room. And I was like, at the time, a lot of people didn't know this, during my junior year, I became homeless. I wasn't even in a house at all. I didn't have anywhere to go. And all I had was those small little things to keep me sane, basically, in life. And the fact that, like, I would hear kids bitching about this, or I didn't get the best beats in the, this Christmas, and I didn't get the smartphone. I'm like, y'all have no idea at all what life is actually like, and it just dumbfounded me, it's the one. Yeah.
Yeah, that's something Josh and I have talked about before. Like, I was real obsessed about the weight room, but I also grew up a little harder than a kid should grow up, right? So,
Hmm.
like, how much of that do you think you got just from maybe growing up a little harder than you should have grown up? Like how much of the
Yeah,
obsession and the drive
for sure.
is a reflection of that?
Yeah.
Yeah, you
Well,
said
I think
everybody should get.
go
You
ahead. Go
said
ahead.
everybody should get punched in the mouth, right? But
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
kind of how we grew up, right? We all had
Yes, sir.
similar
Yes, sir.
upbringings, like. And now I feel like we talk about this all the time. Like one thing that we struggle with is being around people that can't handle adversity.
Yeah,
It's like,
man.
you know what I mean? Like this
Oh,
this
man.
tiny little adversity thing at work, and there's full meltdowns.
Mhm.
It's like, can we get a grasp on freaking reality right now?
Yeah,
Like,
Like, this is
exactly.
not something we should be melting down about. Like,
Yes. No,
So yeah.
Yeah,
I get it. It's just
yeah,
it's one of those things I feel like people just need to work on themselves. But I think it's again, it's just a lack of trying, and especially I get that nowadays are hard for a lot of people. You know what I mean? Like it's hard for me still to this day, but at the same time, the one thing that gives me joy and helps me out mentally and emotionally and everything is I get to go in and help people that want it and like it, and it's fun, and it's cool when they get up and they're screaming because they got a 5 pound PR and I was part of that process. And that, I find that so fucking awesome.
yeah,
It
yeah.
speaks to me in volumes, so
Yeah, and talking about like it's just great when people set a PR. I've already told the story on the podcast, so I'll keep it short. But like my best moment as a coach was helping a girl who was recovering from having scoliosis surgery. So she had her whole spine
oh my
reconstructed,
gosh, wow,
and
yeah.
she deadlifted 70 pounds at a meet, and she was so happy she cried. And it was like,
Oh yeah.
I was rolling a tear for that one. I was like,
Yeah.
hell yeah, 70 pounds,
Yes.
doing cartwheels, like
Yeah.
like that
Oh
was
yeah.
amazing. That was
To see
just as
people
good.
to see people like get it, not even emotional about it is like it's incredible. Like back to that guy that was my 198er that I coached, that totaled over 1,700. He sent me this book long message, basically telling me, that I basically helped him not only figure out what he wanted to do with his life and career in college, but helped him get out of struggles mentally and emotionally, and made him basically, he said, a better man. And that, like, I couldn't tell you like what that did for me,
Yeah,
Right. Yeah.
mentally. It just it's something that I want to do for I want to help as many people as I can. I still coach damn near half the people that I know for free, kind of thing.
yeah,
It's not even about money for me. It's about how can I not only make you a better lifter, but how can I make you better mentally and emotionally too?
hmm
How can I help make you believe in yourself better and fight through adversity better and all these other things? I don't feel like I'm just a powerlifting coach. I also feel a little bit like I'm a mentor, or
Right.
or a helpful hand in a time of need,
hmm
basically. So that's
yeah.
why I love the sport. I love this sport more than anybody. I tell this to everybody in the weight room where I work at, or I just tell everybody I am powerlifting, and you're never going to tell me that I'm not. So I am powerlifting is what I like to say. So I don't mean that to be like, that kind of person, but
Listen, you are
yeah,
powerlifting. I don't know that
it,
anybody listening to this is going to be like,
Yeah,
this
nobody's gonna
yeah,
guy
argue.
only had a 2355.
Yeah,
oh, jeez, yeah. But yeah, no,
And
that's
if you
it.
are on here and you do think that that's a light, please comment, and you could
Comment,
comment.
yeah,
yeah.
You could not
Yeah.
before you humans.
I want to
Like
see it. I
I'll
want
still
to
have
see
you.
it.
Is there
I'll
anywhere?
comment back.
Is there any way that, let's say, somebody wanted to reach out to you and pay you for coaching?
Yeah.
Like, where would they go?
So
Get a little plug
they could
here.
do Instagram. So my name on Instagram is at Logan or at Logan _ Chapman _. That's going to be my handle on Instagram. You just DM me and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Or even my email, which is headstrongstp@gmail.com. It's exactly how it's set, spelled, no capital letters, nothing like that. You can email me there, or even on Facebook. My name's just Logan Chapman. It'll be the first one that pops up. It'll be a picture of me and my wife. You can DM me on there. If you want to get in contact with coaching, I do offer just month to month coaching. I don't try to do any special programming or anything like that. I feel like my programming with my coaching is going to benefit you more than just my programming, if that makes sense at all.
Yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. There's a lot to learn in this sport. Like, we had, I don't remember who it was that we had on, but we were joking about powerlifting being the only sport where you don't have to move your feet. But
Yeah.
there's still, you can get pretty deep on a squat and a bench and a deadlift. There's a lot to know.
Dude.
And, the meet days and the psychology and all the stuff.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Just having someone that knows about what they're doing. It's been in the game for a long time. You know what I mean? That's a big plus in my opinion,
Yeah. And I think the thing that is what makes powerlifting such a great thing is because that you don't see in many other sports the 87-year-old woman setting PRs. That only happens because of the lack of moving the feet.
Right.
But that doesn't mean when you zoom in on the ones that are the greats. Like it's pretty
Yeah, there's a lot to know.
pretty fucking dynamic thing. Like sure, the movement is only, but that movement is with 1,000 pounds on your back. That
Yeah.
gets to be a
Yeah.
thing,
It's a little sketchy, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, cool. All right. Well, I feel like that was pretty good.
Oh, I liked it. It's good.
Yeah, thanks for being
I
on.
like it.
You got any
Absolutely.
other